client sits down in your chair for a color appointment. She's been coming to the salon for years. This time she's trying a new color formula. Your stylist mixes the color, applies it, and 45 minutes later, the client is in your bathroom looking at a red, swollen scalp. By the next morning, she's in urgent care with chemical burns across the back of her head. 2 weeks later, an attorney sends you a demand letter, medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. The total is north of $30,000. Now, here's the question. Does your insurance actually cover this? If you own a hair salon or you're thinking about opening one, the answer depends entirely on what kind of coverage you have. And a lot of salon owners find out the hard way that what they bought is not what they thought they bought. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jim Eddington, and my agency helps individuals and businesses with their insurance every single day. Most salon owners start with general liability. That's the right first step. General liability covers things like a client slipping on a wet floor in your lobby. It covers bodily injury and property damage that happen on your premises. But go back to that color appointment. The client's injury didn't come from slipping on a wet floor. It came from the service your stylist performed. That's a professional liability claim, and a standard general liability policy is not designed to cover it. Professional liability is sometimes called errors and omissions coverage. In the salon world, it covers claims that come from the actual services you provide. Chemical burns from color treatments, allergic reactions to products, a bad perm that causes hair loss, a wax that's too hot and burns someone's skin. These are professional service claims, and if you only have general liability, you may be paying that claim out of your own pocket. A business owner's policy or a bundles general liability with commercial property coverage. For a salon owner who leases or owns a space, this is usually the foundation of the whole insurance program. The commercial property piece covers your physical stuff. Styling chairs, mirrors, wash stations, hood dryers, all the product inventory sitting on your shelves. If a pipe bursts overnight and floods your salon, commercial property is what pays to replace the equipment and the inventory. Business income coverage is typically built into a business owner's policy as well. If that burst pipe shuts you down for 2 or 3 weeks while the build-out gets repaired, business income can help replace the revenue you lose while the doors are closed. Your rent doesn't stop just because your salon does. Also, look closely at tenant improvements and betterments. A salon build-out can be expensive. Plumbing for wash stations, mirrors, flooring, lighting, and custom finishes may not be fully covered unless the policy is set up correctly. Don't just insure the products on the shelf and forget the money you spent building the space. A business owner's policy is a strong starting point, but do not assume it includes professional liability. That's often a separate coverage or an endorsement you add on. Make sure it's there. If you have employees, you need workers' compensation in most situations. The rules vary by state, but the exposure in a salon is real. Stylists work with chemicals all day. Hair color, bleach, relaxers, keratin treatments. A stylist who develops a chemical burn on her hands from mixing color without gloves or breathes in fumes from a keratin treatment and ends up with respiratory issues, those are workers' comp claims. The policy covers their medical bills and a portion of their lost wages while they recover. Repetitive motion injuries are common too. Stylists are on their feet all day, arms raised, making the same cutting and styling motions for hours. Shoulder injuries, wrist injuries, carpal tunnel, those add up over a career and they're workers' comp claims. Slips and falls behind the chair happen more than people think. Salon floors are hard surfaces with water and product on them constantly. A stylist slips, catches the edge of a station, and breaks a wrist. Workers' comp. The cost of workers' comp depends on your payroll, the number of employees, and the type of work they do. If you have employees and you don't carry workers' comp, you're exposed to significant penalties in most states on top of whatever the injury itself costs you. And do not assume booth renters, 1099 workers, or part-time workers are automatically outside the workers' comp conversation. That is a state-specific classification question, and the penalties for getting it wrong can be ugly. Here's where salon insurance gets complicated, and this is the part that trips up the most salon owners. A lot of salons operate with booth renters. A booth renter is a licensed beauty professional who rents a chair or a station from you and operates independently. They usually set their own hours, choose their own products, bring their own clients, set their own prices. When it's structured correctly, they're not your employee. They're running their own business inside your space. Your insurance policy as the salon owner is designed to cover your business. It's generally not designed to cover the booth renter's business. If a booth renter's client has an allergic reaction to a product the booth renter chose and applied, that claim is likely the booth renter's responsibility, not yours. But here's the problem. If the booth renter doesn't carry their own insurance and the injured client sues, the client's attorney is not going to stop at the booth renter. They're going to name the salon owner, and anyone else they can find. Even if the claim is ultimately the booth renter's responsibility, you may still have to defend yourself. The fix is straightforward. Require every booth renter to carry their own general and professional liability coverage. Get a certificate of insurance from each one before they start working in your space. And have your lease agreement require them to name you as an additional insured where the policy allows it, especially on the general liability side. You also want the agreement to clearly say they are responsible for claims that come from their own work. That way, if something happens, their coverage responds first. If you're a booth renter watching this, the same logic applies in the other direction. The salon owner's policy is not there to protect you. You need your own coverage, and it's not expensive. Many booth renter policies run a few $100s a year. Salon equipment adds up fast. Professional shears can run several $100s a pair. A full set of hot tools, clippers, dryers, and styling equipment can easily total a few $1,000s. If you're a booth renter or a mobile stylist, that equipment is yours, and the salon's commercial property policy is not covering it. Inland marine coverage, sometimes called tools and equipment coverage, protects your portable business property. It may cover your gear if it's stolen from your car, damaged in a break-in, or lost in a fire at the salon. Some booth renter policies include a small amount of tools coverage built in. Check the limit and make sure it matches what your equipment is actually worth. Cyber liability surprises a lot of salon owners, but the exposure is there. If you use a scheduling platform, accept credit cards, store client contact information, or run any kind of loyalty or membership program, you're holding data that has value to someone. A data breach at a salon can expose client names, phone numbers, email addresses, appointment history, account logins, and in some cases, payment-related information depending on how your point of sale system is set up. Cyber liability coverage helps pay for the response. That includes notifying affected clients, providing credit monitoring, and covering legal costs if someone sues you over the breach. If you're running a point of sale system and an online booking platform, it's worth looking at. Salons sell retail products, shampoo, conditioner, styling products, treatments. If a client buys a product from your shelf, takes it home, uses it, and has a reaction, that's a product liability claim. It's different from a professional liability claim because you didn't apply the product. The client used it on their own. General liability policies often includes products completed operations coverage, but the details matter. Make sure retail product sales are included in the business description and not treated like some activity the carrier didn't know about. A commercial umbrella sits on top of certain underlying liability policies and adds an extra layer of limits. If a covered claim exceeds the limits on the policy underneath it, the umbrella may provide additional coverage up to its own limit. But you have to be careful here. Not every umbrella automatically sits over every type of claim. Some umbrellas may sit over general liability, but not professional liability unless that coverage is specifically included or scheduled. So if you're relying on an umbrella for salon service claims, do not assume. Ask the question directly. And an umbrella doesn't fix excluded claims. If the underlying policy excludes the claim, the umbrella usually doesn't bring it back. An umbrella is a limit extender, not a missing coverage repair kit. Here's what a well-insured hair salon typically looks like. A business owner's policy that bundles general liability, property, and business income. Professional liability for service claims. Workers' comp if you have employees. A requirement that every booth renter carries their own coverage and provides a certificate of insurance. Inland marine for portable tools and equipment. Cyber liability if you store client data or process payments. Employment practices liability if you have a growing team. Hired and non-owned auto if anyone uses a personal vehicle for salon errands. And a commercial umbrella on top for additional limits. That sounds like a lot, but most of it bundles together. A business owner's policy with a professional liability endorsement covers a large piece of the stack. Workers' comp and umbrella are separate, but they are standard for any business with employees. The key is making sure nothing falls through the gap between what you think you have and what your policy actually says. Pull out your policy, read what's covered, and if something's missing, that's a conversation worth having with your agent before a client's attorney has it with you. If you own a hair salon or you're a booth renter looking for the right coverage, we'd be happy to walk through it with you. Western Pacific Insurance writes coverage for businesses across Nevada, Arizona, Utah, and California. There's a link below where you can get a quote or just give us a call. Subscribe to the channel. We publish most business days, and what we cover is for individuals, families, and business owners who want to understand their insurance before they need it, not after. Thanks for watching.